What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to Sitting In. I'm your host, Austin Green. Today's guest is Brandon Kelly. He's a professional orchestral percussionist in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He teaches private lessons to middle school and high school percussionists, and in his free time, he travels, but in a bit of an unorthodox way. He doesn't plan, basically at all, and essentially just picks a direction and goes, or picks a location and goes, stopping along the way and learning things. This is a long one, so we're doing a part one and a part two. First time we're doing this, which is pretty cool. I've often wondered what it is like to be a professional musician and how you balance that kind of life with living a life. And Brandon, I think, is the perfect person to talk to about this. He's got such an interesting philosophy in the way that he thinks about just doing things, how to be excellent while also taking your foot off the gas a little bit. And he's a fantastic teacher. You'll see, and it shows in the length of this episode, that in some respects, he and I are both walking tangents. We very easily think of multiple related things to whatever we're talking about. And it makes for a wildly interesting and winding path of a conversation. And so I won't even try to explain to you what you're going to learn today. The insights are about what it is like to do a difficult thing at a high level, but then also turn that around and teach somebody else. And thirdly, what it's like to be able to rest and not do that for a period of time. So let me know what insights you're taking away from this, because this one was a very surprisingly deep conversation in my mind. Enjoy. You live in a world, orchestral percussion, that requires and demands extreme precision, if not perfection. And at the same time, you do this traveling with, from what I understand, minimal planning.
Yeah.
If any. I mean, I know there's some. It takes some. Yeah. Why do you need both?
What do I need? Planning and not planning? I mean, the playing thing, I think that's just the nature of the beast to get called. Especially for someone like me, who is not the full-time guy. I'm very nomadic in kind of all of my endeavors professionally. You know, I'm the first sub in several groups, but I'm not the member. So I get called a lot to these different things, but it's because I can just kind of show up, like plug and play, like, okay, here's the music, go. And so to have that precision, to be able to just go is essential. That's how you get the call back. It's easy to get the first call. It's a lot harder to have them say, "Oh, we like you. Like, you were good. You were professional. You were on time. You didn't screw up. You kind of sound good. Like, hopefully, you didn't screw up. You didn't fall in any holes. And so we'll call you back." So that's the precision side and the professional. But I like to counter that. It might be that contrarian in me, that because so much of my professional world is so highly structured, and this goes into teaching as well, like down to the minute, so like going from this school to that school, it takes 7 minutes to drive, from Downing to Marcus, it takes 7 minutes. From Briar Hill to, it's like 4.5 minutes or something like that. I know lights and all that, but you can cut around Tom Thumb, whatever. But you have it down to kind of sometimes the minute by minute, because you're putting things right up against each other. That has to be so hyper structured to get everything done, that I want to rebel very aggressively against that with travel. To just be like, hey, what's that over there? And just go. So sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing. Like there was one time I had a summer planned out. I was going to actually spend a month in the Philippines, Manila, and bouncing around with a girlfriend at the time. And that ended up breaking off. She got an incredible opportunity professionally, and she got the call while we were out in San Diego at her parents. And as she's telling me like she just got this call, she just got this promotion. It was like her dream gig. I was like, oh my God, you have to take it. Like but we realized that was kind of we're gonna, because she was talking about moving here and I was thinking about moving there, but we were gonna have the summer to just like, because she was an international teacher. She's from San Diego, but she was teaching in Manila, and yeah, so like I was gonna go see that and so that ended up happening while we're in. So I was like, well, so we canceled our flights to there, and I flew back, and I really didn't know what I was going to do for that summer because I thought my summer was planned. So I had a crack in the windshield, which is something that commonly happens to my cars, including right now. It's fine. It's down low right. Who cares? It's just going to happen again. It's DFW. But I had to it was a bad enough crack that I was like, I got to get this replaced. So I went to a safe flight not far from here. And as they finished up, I'm literally like, I'm at the, like I'm pulling out of the parking lot and I can turn left and go to the East Coast or right and go to the West Coast. And I sat there for a minute. Nobody was behind me. I checked. I wasn't holding anything up, but I was like, literally this moment is going to completely change how I look at this summer. I mean, literally, which coast am I going to be on? I ended up choosing East because she was in the West and that'd probably be awkward. But yeah, no, sometimes I drove towards New Orleans with no plan. I'm just like figuring out as I go. So I literally had no plan other than I think I'm going to the East Coast. Well, okay. So
the only decision there was just like, she's over there, so maybe just for the sake of...
Give space and all that, yeah. Yeah, just because it was just... Like the temptation would be cause we've remained friends. She lives in Portland now. I've gone up to see her, and there was one time I went up we got brunch, and she was talking about let's do something else, and she and I both happen to like whiskey. So she told me, do you know about the Multnomah Whiskey Library? And I was like, no. So we looked it up, and we got brunch on a Sunday morning, and it wasn't open until Tuesday evening, and so we kind of. And she said, well, I guess you're staying till Tuesday then. So we have a wonderful, we broke up wonderfully as well as could be. But yeah, I was like, I just need space there because it hurts. That was an important connection that was going to be very different now. And so having that space, being on the road, which is something that's, I think, wonderful about the road. You're completely isolated for as long as you want to be. To be with your thoughts, to not be with your thoughts, I don't know, it's almost meditative. That, you can clear your mind pretty easily when you're just on the road. But you don't have to. You can literally do whatever you want. You see something interesting on the road. Hey, what's that over there? And then you go over there. And you can spend an hour. You can spend a week. It's up to you.
To set the foundation a little bit as well, with your education, I guess an educator.
Yeah.
When did you start teaching?
Nick Dungo. I was 15. He was a younger kid, probably 10, 12 years old or something like that. And a guy I went to high school with, Steve Olcott, was a little bit older than me. He was the cool one. We looked up to Steve. Steve, he was really doing the drum set thing. He was in concert band and drum and all that. But he was very much going the drum set route. So he was on tour with a Christian rock band one summer. He was going on tour for the summer, and he had this kid. And he asked me, would I take him on as a student? And I didn't know what I was doing and all that. And I was like, okay, so we're doing that. And I had another student that was the younger sister of a friend of mine that she and I went to high school together. She was in the Guard, and she and I were really close. So when it came time for little sister to start percussion. It's like, so you're doing, so that's how that kind of got started. My first drum line was an accident. I was still in high school. I went to a big regional high school, and I think it was the next town up, the next bordering town up had a much smaller, like it was a little town sort of thing. And long story short, basically just kind of accidentally started helping out there. So I was in high school, but yeah, I went up to see this friend of mine, the drum major. That she and I, like, we went to prom together. We met at like Regent Band or something like that, and she and I became friends. Still friends. She's in Boston and loving life and all that. I saw her about 2 years ago on one of my trips. She's got bunnies. It's adorable. But we'd hang out, and for whatever reason, I guess I'm telling a story. I'll be quick. I went up on the podium. The band director said, yeah, come on up. So I'm up there, and they're doing the ballad, and the battery was marching double time, and they had a quintuplet. So the 5/2, and what the director was saying was false. Like, he was saying, like, the foot should line up with like the third, which is not true. And so I kind of politely was like, and the drumline wasn't getting it, obviously, because that it was bad information. And so I said, I think the problem is this. And I, quickly said, and he was like, could you run to, like, would you mind, like, telling them? And I was like, okay. So I ran down and it's like, hey guys, yeah, well, whatever. Try this. And so they do it and it works. And he's like, you want to keep kind of, so I think he paid me like $100 for the whole rest of the season or something like that. But I was like, okay, it's an accident. But yeah, so I started teaching when I was in high school, and just kind of never stopped.
So did you know that you wanted to keep teaching before you wanted to do performance?
No.
Okay.
No. No, because that's a good question. Trying to remember back. I did not know that I wanted to be a teacher. I don't know that I had anything to offer. Maybe it was partly I want to play. Maybe it was I think more of it was, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. If it wasn't for Murph, if it wasn't for Dolores, who was the orchestra director at my high school, both of whom I still consider to be like parents to me. If it wasn't for them, kicking me into college. I mean, I remember there was a regional group that I played with through high school, South Jersey Area Wind Ensemble. Still exists, still doing fine. But it was a group that was started in, I think, 96 for band directors who wanted to play. And when they started, they had everything they needed instrumentation-wise, except they were short 2 percussionists. And so the conductor who hosted it was at his school. He had his drum captain, and the percussion section leader, Murph, brought his guy. So, and I was a sophomore at the time. So the other guy, coincidentally also named BJ. When I was in high school, I went by BJ, my initials. So the 2 BJs were in this group as the only 2 students. And then, that first season gets done. And I'm now going to be a junior. So they kind of grandfather me, and I got to stay in it. I found out years later that they actually wrote into the bylaws that I'm the only student allowed to be in the group. But I did that group for like 2.5 years. So every Monday I'd, go down from the high school to the middle school where Murph's desk was. We'd stop for a quick dinner or something like that, and then we go to the rehearsal and all that. But it was like a 45-minute drive. So he, one day, he says, "Hey, we got to talk. College, what are you thinking?" And it is one of the most one-sided conversations I'll ever be a part of, because he just went. I'm not even thinking about graduating high school. Like, I didn't think I was going to do that. That's not how. That wasn't part of my calculus. But he was like, "You're going to college," and so yeah, he just starts going off on like, oh, well, you could audition here, you audition there, you could do this. You got to audition at Eastman because he wanted to see if he had a kid who was good enough to get into Eastman. He didn't. A few years later, he did, but it wasn't me. But it led to me going to college, and where I ended up picking his alma mater, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, to study with his former teacher, Dr. Olmsted, who ultimately became my teacher. But yeah, no, he was the one who kind of guided me into just going to college. I had no idea what I was going to do. Certainly not be a teacher. You're going to put me in, like, responsible for the next generation. We can do better.
So it almost just kind of, it happened a few times on accident, and then you got, I mean, like you said, pushed, like you're going to college. And then, so where's the connection there? More accidents, or
My whole life is accidental. It's I consider myself one of the luckiest bastards that will ever, like, I don't understand how any of this happened and I think I've got a good life. You know, I'm stable. I have the freedom to do what I want to do. I don't have to worry. I'm not wanting for anything. And I somehow tricked a whole generation of kids to trust me, to think that I have something to offer, which really is as great of an honor as I ever, the awesome responsibility of knowing that when you're in a classroom setting, or when you're in the mentor-mentee situation, your kids are listening to you. They're paying attention to what you say, to how you say it, to what you do. They see that, and I don't know that I've ever underestimated that. I think sometimes adults can underestimate what kids can do, what they're capable of, what they can, what they're paying attention to, what they're going to remember. That whole thing. Mm-hmm. I think I've always been hyper aware of that, to really be mindful of what you put out, in hopes of being the good role model. But no, being, if I can consider myself there, that's, it never came naturally. I didn't seek it out. It was, and I still say this to current students. There's a kind of a, as they get older, because, people in my position, teaching wise, we, sixth grade through senior year, we get them for 7 years. You get to know them. Eventually you might even, get invited to their wedding, or something like that. Like, you keep that relationship, going. But one of the things that comes up as a kid gets mature enough, where we can get more nuanced, as I'm one to do, is I tell them I'm not their teacher. I'm a musician. I've done what you're trying to do, in some ways very similarly, borderline identically, other ways very different. But I have an idea of how the road goes. Hopefully I can help you avoid the potholes that maybe I did or did not avoid myself. Hopefully you'll avoid more potholes than I did. Hopefully I can help you have a smoother road, so that you can achieve more. And I think that's the thing. The next generation should do better. The kids should do better than the parents. This growth. Mm-hmm. 'Cause that's what we want. And in this regard, I'm very parental. I want you, as one of my former kids, you'll always be one of my kids. I want you to do better. I want you to be better. I want you to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. That's true of all of my kids. however I can help, whatever I can do to if I see you going off the cliff and I need to grab you, or if it's a small cliff, and I tried to warn you, yeah, you're gonna, okay,
And you need to kind of let them fall off that cliff a little bit.
and you can pick them up and maybe dust them off a little bit, give them a little point. Something that Murph would do, because he was like, some people are like that. I didn't want to say I told you so. Murph was not that person in the funniest way. No, he's like, no. Let me. What was that? You were right, Murph. I was like, what? You were right, Murph. Yep. I was wrong. I've very much taken after Mr. Murphy on that one. But failure, if we can, the big category of failure, is one of our best teachers. I think it always has been. It always will be. Sometimes you need to fail. Sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to finally be able to grow, to be like, oh, that sucked. That was awful. I'm thinking of a former student who shall remain nameless, but they didn't finish their soul all through middle school, self-proclaimed lazy, very intelligent, but just they would not put in the drive. And it was their sophomore solo that, weeks out, like 2 months out, I'm like, dude, come on, you gotta get on this. 6 weeks out or so, I'm like, you're starting to set yourself up for a 2, score wise. Everybody wants that 1. Most people get the 1. So I was like, if you don't start turning this on, so a couple weeks later, dude, you're gonna be lucky for a 2, like 3. And I've only had a literal handful in my career at Marcus get a 3. It's just that rare, and it hurts. The kid, not, I'm fine. But that can sting. And the kid did ultimately get a 3. And they themselves, 2 years later, said it was the single best, after 2.5 years, it was the single best thing that could have happened to them. Flash forward 2 years later, a senior, that kid was the first person to pick their solo, the first person to have all their notes learned, the first person to be at full tempo, just took it to task. Outstanding soloist, which is, so the scoring thing for those who don't know our score systems, 1 to 5, nobody gets 4 or 5s. 3 is like death. 98% of people get 1s. But to differentiate yourself there, what those cats are going after is outstanding soloist. That's kind of special. And this kid was one of the kids who got that designation. And afterwards, they said, that sophomore year, getting a 3, that sucked. That was awful. But that's exactly what I needed. I needed to fail like that, to feel that, to snap out of it, to change. So failure is a very, very useful friend, whether we want to agree with that or acknowledge that or not.
Yeah. Do you think there's any way to convince somebody that that's true until they experience it?
God, that's a great question. Short answer, I don't think so. And that's from years and years of being on both sides of that question. I think, when could I have avoided some of the potholes that my teachers, not just Murph, but Olmsted, Stamp, I've had a number of great teachers. Happily, as I got older, I didn't fall into as many potholes. I was a dumb kid.
You got them out of the way early.
That's right. Thank you for that. That's the most tactful way we could put that. Thank you for that. I'm gonna try and remember that and steal that. No, but I had really good teachers who gave me really good information, who I had no question had my best interest at heart. They were trying to help me. I was the problem. I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't, and it's a number of things. Some of the stuff was just the outside life that I wasn't in a place where I could listen. Some of it was just, I was a teenager. Teenagers can do dumb things. That's part of being a teenager. That's okay. Sometimes that falling short on something, fall short here and now for success later on. Feel the sting. You'd rather fail in high school than fail professionally. Get it out of the way early. Could some of that stuff be avoided? It is a question that as now a teacher, a mentor, I've continually asked. And when I see that happening, is there a way to avoid it? I don't know that there is. I'll keep trying every single the actions when I see it happening with a kid. My actions are always to try and warn them, because if they don't need to feel that, great. And more kids than not, when you say, hey, you're not doing what you need to do on this, or you're falling short, they listen and they change and they try. It's not about getting it exactly right, but are we moving in a direction from, from the as one, just like as clear an example, as simple an example, you don't practice at all. You practice 24 hours a day. And so where are you on that spectrum? Mm-hmm. And if you're on the let's try practicing this week. Let's do that. You're not expecting them to get 3 hours a day every single day, right away, or ever. But can they show up? Can they walk up to the instrument, put the time in, realize they're going to hit wrong notes? It's not going to sound good, because early practicing shouldn't sound good. If you're sounding good early on, you're not really practicing. And it not sound good so I'm getting nuanced with music. You sound good, have good tone at the instrument and all that, but if you're just nailing it right away, it's not much of a challenge in the music. When you're learning new, difficult for you music, the early stuff shouldn't sound polished. You're learning, and that for some people is not. I would guess most people, that's not enjoyable. Some people, like somebody you just had on recently, thrive in it. This trademark sound of Will. Hi, Will. I'm so bad. And that's I say this carefully. It's the right mindset to have if you want to go professional. If you want to achieve at that high level. I was like that too. I was so bad in my head. The results that I was getting in college and all that, like I was winning, the spot in the top ensemble, or getting, being the percussionist or the drum set player for the musical, or the, like getting these spots. But in my head, I was just wretchedly awful. And I think that's part of what drives us to be better. We're not content with where we are. We're constantly trying to be better. But something that relates to that, and something I very much did with lots of my kids, and find I need to do now, avoid the pothole of getting destructive, like I did. There was a period of time where my practice sessions would end out. There was this room at IUP where there's kind of a marimba here, and there's a table behind, not dissimilar to this. And I'd set up my mallet bag behind me, just fold it out, pick up 4 mallets, be doing the thing. And after a few minutes, I start getting frustrated and had a little bit of a rage thing, as you're about to find, because I'd be like, and I'd finally just throw my mallets across the room. Pick up another set of mallets, go back at it. I'd last some more time, and inevitably,
Chuck another.
yep. And my practice session would end when my mallet bag was empty. And I would pick up my now empty mallet bag, I'd go across the room, and I'd put all the mallets back in, loathing at how just wretchedly awful of a musician I am. Why do I suck so bad? And so I see that in my kids. And it's not bad to have a little bit of that, to be self-critical. But there is very much a zone where it's destructive. And that's where you got to pull the kid back. Be like, dude, did you hear what you just... Dude, I couldn't do that when I was in grad school. And you're a junior. You're doing just fine. That's... to be that voice to say you're not as bad as you think you are. I know how you feel right now. I've been there. Take it back. Don't be that destructive. Be critical. Mm-hmm. Don't be destructive.
I've been thinking a lot about mentorship lately. I've had a lot of really good conversations about like what it means, what it looks like, the value of both being a mentor and receiving mentorship. And something that I'm curious about that I haven't quite, nailed down yet is how do you like refine yourself as a mentor? Because you're talking about how over time, you weren't like ready at the beginning and you just kind of were thrust into it in a sense. And over time, I think the way that you kind of put it is you ended up being a person that like these kids trust. And that definitely doesn't happen on accident, like truly. I think that whether or not it's very conscious or kind of subconscious, you're developing. And I'm curious the way that you think about development, especially in regards to that destructive behavior you just mentioned, where to be able to see that in a kid and guide them through it and maybe even around it a lot of times.
Yeah.
There's some, like, for you have to have known that about yourself in hindsight and to probably to some extent have, worked on that. So how do you, move through destructive behavior, turn that into something positive, especially whenever then you have to like mentor a kid through it too?
Well, the first thing, the biggest thing is developing trust with the kid. When you have those 7 years, given my current situation, I've been at Marcus a long time. I see the beginners all the way through graduation. If they stick with the program, you have time to build that trust. Something that I think I've always done, I've always tried to do is speak honestly, speak bluntly, to the point, early on, right away. I tell kids in their first lesson, I'm going to pick on you. It's okay. You're allowed to pick on me too, but it's like going up against, it's like heckling a comedian, a stand-up comic. You're going up against a professional heckler. But come at me, kid. So is that as one of my early professional mentors as a teacher, Mike Hernandez, who was the longtime percussion director at Plano Senior High School. My first gig right out of grad school, I wasn't even done with grad school yet. I became the percussion director at Plano West Senior High School and that whole cluster. And that lasted kind of 2 years, and ended up leaving that for a whole. Yeah, it wasn't the kids were amazing. I loved so much. Like, I adore those kids and the environment, but some of the other adults were harder to work with. It just was. It wasn't a good fit. And so Mike finds out about that, and he's like, You want to come work for Plano? And so the next year I did, and was there, and worked with him simultaneously up until my first year at Marcus. I was teaching at both schools, but I was under Mike, and God, what a monster teacher. And I think he does it better than maybe anybody I've ever seen. He builds culture. He builds, he finds a place for for the kid. You know, I refer to him as the enabler, because he didn't tell a kid you're going to do this, or he set the conditions so that if a kid wanted to, you know, if they could try this out, and if it fit for them, like, oh, they found their spot, and then now they have that ownership, and oh, it's great. But he once said about me that I speak kid. And I think what he means by that is, you know, I'll be that sarcastic. I'll pick on them. You know, I'll be real with them. And I think that's essential, because if you're only ever saying, "Oh, good job," you know, you get it, you know, whatever, then that becomes hollow. You know, if they did not do what they need to do, or if let's say they tried to do what they were supposed to do, and it still sounds bad because they didn't really listen to what they were supposed to do, then you got to be able to call them out for that. And I think that honesty is essential, and that's, you know, you build that up over some years. Then you can, you know, as they get older and as that trust has been built, when they're sucking at something, you can say that you heard that, right? Like, we're going to do better here, right? Yeah, but at that point, when that trust has been earned, they don't take it personally. It still stings. There's no, and it should sting. You know, that failure should be something that becomes the catalyst for ultimate success. If we need to fail, so be it. And failure stings. So if we need to sting, cool. If I need to be the one who gives a little bit of that sting to it, so be it. I don't want to, but if it's in the best interest of the kid, absolutely. But yeah, building that trust is everything. It's honesty. When they do well, call that out. Say that, yes. When it was bad, that was bad. Call that out honestly. Balls and strikes.
So in yourself then, working through that, like the destructive behavior, or like maybe that destructive like response to failure, how does that work? How did that work for you?
Oh, well, I realized I was a hypocrite, because I was not following what ultimately would be the advice or the guidance that I would give. Now, it wasn't really, because you know, when I saw it in myself, how destructive, or, you know, that the unhealthy stuff that I was doing for myself, which, quick side note there, I also can't knock that, because I get called to play gigs. I play every weekend.
It kind of worked.
It worked. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really did kind of work. So I can't knock that. I can't get rid of that without changing the ultimate results. And so I see the value of it. The question I always come back to is there a better way? Did we have to go over the cliff? Did I need to be that destructive? Is there a healthier way? Because, you know, maybe if I didn't spend so much time being as destructive as I was, at being as self-critical, maybe I could have achieved even more. You know, maybe I could have been a better musician, a more skilled, and maybe, you know, because I did have to waste some time just dealing with my own. So, you know, maybe maybe there's a way to be better. And with that said, every person is different. You know, what worked for one person does not work for the person next to them. Which is why I love the one-on-one. It's not the only thing that I do, but it's a lion's share of what I do. And it's that one-on-one. You can read the kid. You can see what they're getting. The look in their eye. And how many. I'm having these flashbacks of these moments of kids where I see they didn't even say anything, but a small reaction. I was like, what are you thinking there? And having that chance to say, or having a chance to react to that, and, hearing what they did, or what they thought of it, and being able to help them recontextualize it, to be like, oh, that's just the we'll call it wisdom of being older, of realizing, oh, that's okay. You fell short on this one, but do you realize where you were a year ago? You barely fell short on this one. Like, you were so close. Like, don't give up. Like, you're on the right path. You just need a little bit more time. Do not take this as a defeat. Not fully. I mean, yeah, technically it is, but like, you're on the right path. Just keep going. You're just not there yet. Keep going. How I did it for myself, I don't know that I did for the longest time. I mean, I would call myself unhealthy. And so much, I literally think of everything that I did in my 20s and preceding that and after that. But I can, every moment that I had at the beginning of my age, was in service of my career of music, right down to how I thought about eating and sleeping, that it was just to recharge the battery so that I could keep going. That was very much my mindset. That it's obsessive. I may have had an obsessive compulsive disorder when I was younger. That may or may not play into it, but I also still have those characteristics that serve me. I never lose things because I can't walk through a doorway without subtly touching my legs to make sure my keys and my phone are in my pocket. The last time I thought I lost something was 2007. It was my planner, and it ended up I'll spare the story, but it was exactly where I thought it was. And after 20 minutes of tearing apart my apartment, my office, my car, my everything, it was right under the stack of books that I thought it was. Just a little tiny bit smaller than the book on top of it. But that can serve us really well, to be that detail oriented, that hyper focused on the details. That's in the orchestral world. That's kind of essential, to be at that higher level. And if you're going to have kids who ultimately think about doing that, then you have to be able to convey that. And if you've never walked that, it's a lot harder to do. You don't have to walk it, but it helps to walk that.
When you have such a big age range, like you're talking 6th grade through 12th grade through senior year, and not all of them will stay in the program, but a lot of them do. That's a very wide range of skill level as well. I mean, and obviously within years and across all 7 years, you're dealing with a lot of kids in a very wide range. What does that feel like?
Frankly, I don't view it as terribly different, big picture, because especially when it's the one-on-one. In the group setting, what I do some of, what I have done some of in the ensembles and all that, really what Ken and Wiley, the percussion director, my boss, because he doesn't do any lessons, he has a much bigger issue with having to change gears, for the beginners versus the high school wind symphony, which are kind of our two extremes. For me, the one-on-one setting, it's really just, where's the kid right now? Okay, they come in, they do their thing. Okay, and I'm just reacting to what I see.
Oh, because they're just there basically giving you the information from directly.
Yeah, like
you just get to see how they're doing.
Yeah, they play what they're playing. And there's a certain level of objectivity, the black and white on the page, which I lean so heavily into, because music is so subjective. When we're dealing with auditions, and the subjectivity of something, that gets more complicated. So we do have to be more nuanced. I know you experience this, as you're dealing with the region, the all state level, that whole thing. We would talk about, my guess, from my experience, 40% of the judges like this sort of thing, 60% kind of like this. You kind of play it this way, but I think strategically in this audition, you might, or phase one, the first round, you have to, I think you play it safer, which actually correlates beautifully to the professional orchestral world when you're doing that audition process. The first round, you're showing competency. So you keep you're playing fairly conservative in terms of do it the traditional way. Most people play this way. Show that you understand how it's supposed to go. As you get into the later rounds, you get to be more nuanced because you've already gotten past the first round. Everybody in the final round, we know they can play. Now show us what you really got. So yeah, it's all just reacting. So that's the same with a sixth grader who's trying to play line 4 in step 9 of the Wiley beginner book, or the junior who's finalizing the touches on their college audition, and they're playing the highest level rep of their lives so far. Call a spade. You missed that note. You're rushing here. But of course the changes, with the younger kids, you don't get to be as nuanced. You don't get to be as, typically there are exceptions. There are certainly some middle school kids that I felt like I was talking to a young college student. It's the privilege of being at a school like I am, like we got to be a part of. Exceptional happens more regularly than I think is normal. It's amazing. It's so much fun to watch and to have a really nice seat to see that. But yeah, generally the younger kids, it's more black and white. And as you get older, you can appreciate nuance. You can appreciate the color, the shadings of things. And so I will absolutely adjust that based on the kid, but it's not absolute. It's a general sort of younger kid, older kid, but it's all individualistic. So everybody's on the same scale. Black and white is black and white. That's a quarter note. So that becomes fairly easy. I don't think it's terribly hard to shift gears like that for each kid. It's a lot easier one-on-one than the group setting. Teaching a beginning percussion class is very different than teaching the wind symphony sectional as they're playing professional level percussion ensemble music at a really high level. Drastically different in that setting. But yeah, ultimately it's just you take what is given and you react to it.
I spoke with Will kind of about something similar to what you're mentioning there about the nuance of improvement. Like as you improve, how much more nuanced the improvement gets, kind of like how much the improvement accelerates. And I'm curious about that from kind of a higher level, like as an educator for the sixth grader, being able to either like play or not play something very simple is kind of where the improvement is, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's not, like you said, not a lot of nuance. And for them, progress comes easily because there's a lot of progress to be made. And then as you get to the higher levels, progress comes less easily because there's less to be made. But what Will talked to me about was finding a lot of joy whenever you can have even just the slightest improvement. I'm curious about that from the educator level, how you experience that, what that feels like for you, seeing that those improvement changes, and how you experience it personally with the students.
Yeah, well, I saw that that part of the with Will, and I thought he worded it really well. I'm along for the ride, so I get to experience that with them, and I being with them through that. By the way you worded it with the I think it like spheres. The beginner, their sphere is very, very small. They don't know anything, and so when they learn something, like their sphere just got bigger. But they started with basically nothing. And so proportionally, it does feel like a lot more. So I thought your wording of it was really, really good. And I think what we're describing is plateauing, where you get to that point where you're just like you've done everything you can think of doing. What else? Like now what? And that's really hard. Hard's not the right word. It's challenging. And sometimes we have devices for that, I'm shifting back to, as the person, as the player, as the student, or as the one having to go through that. Sometimes that is a matter of having the outside opinion, having the teacher, or, a colleague, if I have to do something, or, because I don't get to practice as much at that high level sort of, because it's just not my gig now. I'm not going after any big auditions. I'm not getting a spot in the President's Own Marine Band or anything like that. Because I'm 10 years over the age. Audition once, didn't make it past the first round, which was the correct. It was amazing just to be there and experience that. But I'm not doing that sort of thing. And my skill set allows me to do what I do professionally now. So I don't have to, I could go into a lot of the gigs and just read it down. So I don't have to be doing that sort of, my prep work is, making sure I have all the gear, like setting up the percussion section, if I'm the principal, to make sure all the gear is there, to hire the players and do the back end stuff, the logistics. But, I just lost it. Bring me back. Sorry.
It's all good. Thinking about like improvement over time. And
yeah.
That, yeah.
So when when I get that little moment of, and it sometimes the longer you go, being stuck, and then there's just a little yes, you're unstuck, and it feels like $1,000,000. I'm gonna steal there's a slam poet, Molly Taylor, who's a teacher. He got out, started doing the poetry thing, and I think the poem, or the spoken word thing that he does, what a teacher makes, or something. It's been a few years since I've listened to it. I should go back, and it's amazing. But one of the lines in it is, he's speaking as the teacher, talking to a student. I can make a C- feel like a Congressional Medal of Honor, and I can make a C+, is more poetic. I can make a C+ feel like a Congressional Medal of Honor, and I can make an A- feel like a slap in the face. How dare you come to this space with anything less than your very best? I hope I did Taylor justice on that one. That's how he delivers it. But it's that idea that just that little nuance, or that little thing that, we're in that A- level, but how do we get that to an A? Like, it's difficult, but that little, like, it can feel amazing just to push that, or maybe you get stuck. I'm kind of going all over the place, and it's tough, but I think going back to the teacher, I'm along the ride for the kid. I'm not the one taking the credit for you won that spot in the Wind Symphony. You did that. I was there. I'm doing the lessons or giving you guidance and all that, but it's ultimately up to the kid if they're going to listen or not listen, if they're going to take the advice, not take the advice, or somewhere in between. They're going to take this part of it. They're going to challenge. Who's to say I know everything? I don't. I bring my experience, the knowledge that I've picked up along the way. I'm bringing my very best to try and help, but the adults are not perfect. It took a long time to realize this, but Mr. Murphy is not actually perfect. He doesn't know everything. that was hard. None of my teachers know everything. None of the people that I ever work with had all the answers. That's okay. There are some things that I know some people that I was taught that I would call, not great information. And I didn't take that. Sorry, I'm losing it again.
Thinking about improvement and enjoying those like small steps, but then like how even like the adults in the room aren't perfect and the teachers aren't always absolutely correct. And even like you get bad information sometimes.
So the kid ultimately has to make the choice. Mm-hmm. They're the one in the audition room. They're the one who has to make the choice. So if they win the audition, that's on them. If they lose the audition, that's on them. They take responsibility. The adults in the room, the mentors, we're helping as best we can, but ultimately it's the kid. So, in that regard, when that kid, when they're stuck for a while, when they're at that already at a high level and they're like, what now? And they're stuck. And then they get that little, like what Will's talking about, just that little, and it's like, oh my God, I get to watch that. I get to be the hype guy right next to him. Yeah, you did do, girl.
Celebrate with them, right?
Oh, and so at that point, I get to be kind of more spectator than anything, and that's really fun. It's absolutely. Lots of teachers call it different things. I think it was the eureka moment or the light bulb. However, some people call it that, the eureka moment. And the more that struggle is for that kid, the sweeter it is when they push through.
And when you get to coach them through a failure too, it's like you get both of those sides. That's pretty beautiful, I think, to be able to experience that with someone else.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's all on the spectrum because not everything's going to be success, but that's part of what makes the beauty of that much better. Is that they did have those years, that the kid who got the 3 in 10th grade, and then that will go down as one of the sweetest little celebratory I will ever experience in my career. And that kid, it was the struggle. That kid was not the best player. I don't know if they ever made the top ensemble. They might have. I just don't remember. I don't think they did. It's irrelevant. I saw how many years, a half decade of continual falling short, of continual failures, that when they got it in the end, and they peaked just right. They left it on the field. If I could steal a DCI or marching reference, they left everything on the field. They walked out of Marcus High School feeling like $1 million musically. I can't speak to their other. I think they were fun, but that's. I don't think I will ever forget that feeling that. And I had the best seat in the house, shy of the person experiencing it. It was amazing. Yeah. But that only happens with the failure. The kid who's always great, who always figured things out, who never really dealt with that level of struggle. It's great for them. But there is something about overcoming the challenge, the adversity.
Yeah. So let that sit for a minute. So during your travels, have you ever had an experience while traveling that changed how you approach education?
Certainly, yes. Part of what I think it's a lot of me learning from my 20s, and which bled into my 30s. of not being obsessed with music. It was necessary to build a career. There was one year, 2012, which we will not talk about much because we do not want to talk about that. But that was the toughest year it was awesome in the worst way. It was the defiant. So I was teaching in 5 school districts, 17 schools, over 100 individual lessons.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, on 17 different kids. Some of them were like the 6th graders are separate, but that's still the travel time. Like that's to go over for 2 kids for 42 minutes or something like that. It's like that's just, it was so much bouncing around. Anna was the percussion director for Fines High School, which fed Plano Senior. That was my role under Mike Hernandez, because Plano has the 11-12 senior high school and then 2 9-10s. And so I had one of the 9-10s. So I am the person responsible for percussion at that school, which also means I'm helping at Plano Senior, and all that. And that was my first year at Marcus. And I only taught, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the 5-octave room. I never saw the light. There was always a kid waiting at the door every 30 minutes, no breaks. Because it just that was awful. But that year, I credit with, like, because people call me, like, if you want something to write, call a busy person. And I was building my reputation. That was like the payoff, like, oh, that people think I know what I'm doing. Yay. It's like, awesome. Okay. Could people stop calling? That's, the last one was Wiley East. I was already teaching for Wiley, not Kennewick, but the town of Wiley. I was brought in for Wiley High School. They were doing PASIC, and I was doing lessons and helping out with that for their thing there. So I'm cleared for Wiley ISD. And Wiley East, which is way out in the middle of nowhere, it is remote. Like, it's still pretty remote. They finally started, but it was like you drive for like 30 hours or something like that, and then you go a couple more miles. It was in the middle, so they couldn't get anybody. And so the percussion director, Matt Holm, who I didn't know at the time, awesome cat, brilliant educator, was like, hey, we need somebody for lessons. And I was like, the only possible time that I have is like Thursday nights. Like, I could get there at like 5 or 6 o'clock. I was like, I was hoping he would not call my bluff. And he did.
Great. See you then.
That was awful. Yeah, that was just a beating. And that was okay, I need to react back. I'm going to bring it back to travel. I remember where we're, but I was so upset. I didn't have time to do anything. I didn't see, my friends. I didn't see daylight shy of going between schools. It was just, it was too much. I thought it was required. I thought that was the gig. Like, that's what I signed up for. That's, if you want to do it right as a teacher, you give everything, because that's, like parents, you give everything to your kid needs something, take the piece. Okay. Give it to the kid. You need another piece. I'm thinking of that visual where the parent, like, they take a piece of them and grow there's a picture I saw once. I was like, yeah, they're taking a piece of them and enriching the kid. Like, that's what you do when you become a teacher. That is the agreement you have made. You have accepted a responsibility. How dare you ever fall short of that? It's like, I think it's virtually identical to when people decide they're going to have their own child. That is we say 18-year long responsibility. And how you better be up for it, because that life is now depending on you to do what you need to do to fulfill your responsibility. I think teachers have that same thing. We don't have to feed you. Most marching band, yeah, we do. But yeah, that's it's a lot. and I don't have my own kids. I should have some sort of life. I should have balance. I should not be so obsessive about everything. And so travel, it wasn't the reason why I started to travel, but it eventually became something that was both for me to have a life. But I also, and I used to post more on like social media, where I would do, and part of that, because I'm not really a social media guy, I dabbled in it for a while. And it's like, it doesn't fit. But when I've become kind of infamous for these travels and people on gigs or wherever, oh my God, I can't wait to see your thing. Like they're living vicariously. I'm like, I'm not that interesting. But I'll post, okay, whatever. But part of that, why I was posting, was for those kids who were becoming obsessed like I was to see, because I know that some of my kids are, I know some of you guys follow me on whatever, the Instagram or the, what, you know, and I'd leave it open, it's fine. But I want you to see that you can have a life outside of this, and frankly, to be better about it. I think the 20-year-olds nowadays, oh, you guys are so much smarter than we were. Oh my God, it's like you guys. I mean, you're having standards. You're not just taking it. You know, in the professional world, you're saying this is not fair. No, we do need time off, or you know, we're not going to come. You're not going to be at a boss's beck and call for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, if it's needed or something like that, okay. But we have, learning what boundaries are, learning how to say no. I couldn't say no to Wiley East, which I don't regret at all. I got some great kids out of there, and meeting Matt, and like it was awesome. But if I happen to get a little bit of sleep anytime that school year, that would have been, I imagine that would have been okay too. But being able to say no to something so that you can afford yourself the opportunity to do something. I didn't know I was allowed to travel. I did not know I was allowed to take a vacation. I was in my late 20s, and I was messaging a friend of mine, Jeannie, who at the time she was a cruise line singer. Awesome catch. Yeah. So she's living on boats. She's been to, I think, all 7 continents. I remember seeing a picture of her with a bunch of her crewmates in bathing suits in Antarctica, like on an iceberg or something like that. Like just to be like, we got all 7, like we're good. And so she's in port. So she had some internet connectivity for a brief bit, and we're talking, and it somehow came up that I'd never been on vacation. She's like, oh my God, how have you not, I didn't know I was allowed to get to, I was a poor kid from Jersey. I didn't know I was allowed to do that. Work. Or you're going to fail. You're going to be a failure. No, you got to work. And so she was like, you're coming on my boat. So I had to renew my passport and all that. And she was like, yeah, I'm giving you a week, because, she gets like 2 weeks for like friends and all that to come visit and all that.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, they changed it. That actually never ended up happening. I had to renew my passport because it expired. So a few months later, I get it. And she was like, hey, when you get it, send me your passport so I can clear you with the captain, and then come on. And in that time, I think it was Royal Caribbean, changed the rules as to what constitutes family. That all of a sudden, her mom now did not count as family. You get unlimited family. So, but you only get 2 weeks of friends. And so, and I don't know. No, I did meet, I think I met Carol once. She lives out in Burbank, and before I'd even met her, she just gave me her apartment while I was on a road trip. And I was seeing Jeannie, just catching up with an old friend and all that. And she's like, well, where are you staying now? I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. I never know where I'm going to, at the time, I never knew. And she's like, well, my mom's out of town. Why don't you just take her? Yeah, she'll be cool with it. And she's like, yeah. So I never even met Carol. And I have her apartment, which has happened way too many times. People are way too trusting of me. I think I'm a trustworthy person, but you don't know that. Whatever. But yeah, so she ended up, when I sent her the passport, she was like, so sorry. It changed. And considering how awesome Carol is, she needs to go on the cruise. But that idea of, oh, wait a minute, am I allowed to can I like travel, but not for work? Like, I mean, that's how the road tripping started. I was going back each summer to play in a gig, a summer gig that I had out of my university. It's kind of an alumni faculty sort of. It's a recording ensemble, Keystone Winds. And each summer I would drive up there. Part of the drive was because I wanted to bring my own gear, and I'm not putting my cymbals on a plane for baggage handling to lose my babies. I love my and just that. No. But also it was and it's going to sound a little dumb, but I don't care. I really rebelled against having any sort of anything that I am Texan. I am not. There's the pride of, I'm from Jersey. And so I refused to change over my car registration to Texas anything, my license. Every summer I had to go back up and re-register my car. That was it literally was the catalyst. How dumb is that? I mean, I stand by it entirely because I ended up not, because I didn't expect to stay here. I was still in grad school, and then I had that buffer where I was like, well, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not staying here. Texas, no. No. The first day I was in Texas, I was at a coffee house in Denton, day before my audition, and this local, we were sitting around the couches, mostly college cats, 20-year-olds like me, mid-20s. We're just having conversations. It's awesome. Except there's this one guy, he's probably in his 50s or so. In the line of the conversation, he had mentioned that he has never left Denton County in his life.
Oh.
And he called me, and I quote, a Yankee City slicker. Man, that badge of honor, and it was amazing. But I really own that. I've never, I grew up outside of an hour down the shore from New York. I still consider that whole area like that's, if home was a physical location, that's kind of it. I never thought I'd settle in Texas. It's all your fault, actually. All of the kids and the opportunities that ended up happening. Professionally, there's not a better place to do what I do. I'm dumbfounded that I've gotten to do what I do. But I need to leave as much as possible. And so that's the traveling. It was really to kind of get away from here. But more seriously, it's to experience other things. Believe it or not, I don't have all the answers. My perspective is not the end all be all. There are other people on this planet with thoughts that are not my own, that I don't understand, that I don't even conceptualize. And how will I ever learn? How will empathy, understanding, learning of any sort happen without that exposure? So I love going to places and just, sitting down at the bar, and I've always got my book, and I'm happy as a clam. I've got a book and I geek out, and usually, 50% of the time, 40, 60, something like that. Hey, what you reading? And all of a sudden the book just is no longer, and it's now conversation, and the varied collection of people, the conversations, some people that think very similarly, lots of people who don't, in a very safe, welcoming space. We can have real conversation, some of which have gone for hours, some of which I've continued to be friends with to this day, years later. And it's amazing. That doesn't happen if you stay on your couch. No, you gotta go out there. You don't know what you're gonna find, but that's kind of awesome. That's kind of the point. So,
how does coming back from traveling and having all those different kinds of experiences, how does it change the way that you walk back into a rehearsal? Like if you're coming back for a show.
I think I can change gears. Well, it depends on the length of travel. For instance, this past week, I may have wandered, but I only had a week, which is not enough time. I think my record of being gone was 81 days. I because my teaching gets done before school. I don't stay for the last week because finals, and I don't need to be around for that. We're not doing lessons. We're not doing no. I'm gone, and I don't teach the first week because they're still building schedules, and I like come in after that, so I stay out of the way. So yeah, I literally left before school. The school year ended, and got back after the school year started. I was gone the entire summer. That is not hyperbole. That is not figurative. I literally was gone the entire summer. It was amazing.
I think I remember that year. I think it was like 2016 or 2017.
No, this was...
Was it early on?
No, it was later.
Oh.
I've had really long trips, but it was never... And I've left earlier. I've certainly left earlier, but I would come back. And this was partly just to kind of be fun. I mean, I got back like a day or two after school started. Like I think I could have been back, but I slow played in Oklahoma City just to be like, oh, I'm holding on to this one. I am so close. Got to do it just for the dumb little. I like that like the dumb little things on the road. It's just like it's kind of like like the diner drive-in. I don't watch TV or whatever, but like those shows. That's sort of like you just go to a place to experience the thing. For him, it's a career and all that. Yeah. But if you're just a traveler, just kind of going like, oh, hey, it might be cool to stop there. Or the world's largest pistachio, which is out in New Mexico or something like that. That's worth a little trip there. It's just kind of like a dumb little. Okay, so I did that. I got to see it. Okay, cool. Hopefully, more of the things on the travels have a little bit more substance to them. But when you're driving between, here and Denver, and there's almost nothing. Or driving across I-80, Wyoming from Salt Lake over to Fort Collins. I did that, I think it was summer 14-ish or something like that. I'm driving eastbound, left Salt Lake, and I get through, I'm in Wyoming, and that is the second most desolate road I've ever driven in my life. I could see mountains out in the distance, and I never got there. I drove for hours.
You're still the same size.
Just how is like that's, and so my mind just started doing this is just not possible. Like this, how is this an optical illusion? Am I going crazy? I might be going crazy. That happens sometimes. So you have those little things just to bring you back to sanity. That was at the end of like 6 weeks on the road. I know it's early. I wasn't a seasoned a traveler, so I was young. I wasn't in prime shape for that yet. I don't wig out nearly as much anymore. I know when I need a break. I usually don't, except for like the beginning and the ends of trips. I usually don't travel I try not to make it more than 4 hours between points. Western half of the United States, that's sometimes unavoidable. But I try and stop for something, to see something to ditch out here. Set up my tent in that little ditch right there, and just chill out. Set up a little campfire, read a book. I'm good. Just to break it up. What's the original question? That's
coming back to like a rehearsal.
Oh yeah.
The travel.
So yeah, depending on like. Yeah, so the trip I just did this past week, I went up to Kansas City by way of Tulsa, kind of I like Tulsa. I got to play with the symphony there a few years ago and found that I kind of like it. I had a girlfriend who lived there as well. Yeah, lived. That go up to see her. It was kind of same time. I was like, so I was up in Tulsa for like a year, not permanent, but like I kept going back like once a month or once every other month or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool town. And then I just spoked out one further. I've got some friends who are like, dude, Kansas City. That's where I was like, really? They're like, oh yeah. I was like, really? Okay. Turns out it's good to listen to people. Yeah, Darren was right. Kansas City is kind of awesome. I ended up staying there for like 3 days. I was going to go on to St. Louis as well, and I never made it because I'm like, let's get to know Kansas City a little bit better. But yeah, 4 hours to Tulsa from here, 4 hours to Kansas City, 4 hours back to Tulsa. So it was like this. It was nice. And I only came back because I had a gig. A gig where I'm mostly in black. Now I got to play the show tonight. Got to play it tomorrow night. But I was only gone a week. So I really didn't have to unplug. The tougher one is after the summer. Because I do something horrible as far as musicians are concerned, the high end, like that high level musicians, of which I don't think I can honestly claim. I would like to, but I'm not. I'm a mercenary. I'm a freelancer. That's what DFW really is. Unless you're one of the full time guys in the Dallas Symphony or Fort Worth, you're pretty much a freelancer. That's what DFW is. Most of us here are freelancers. And so it's a la carte. Yeah, I'll do that one. Yeah, I'll do that. I can't do that one. I'm already booked with this group, but it's so yeah, I take that as an opportunity to unplug. And it's very much the rebellion from my 20s of I only did music. I didn't allow myself anything else. This is very much the rebellion against that, the contrarian in me, to say there's more to life than what you do. You are not defined by your career, and that was an insanely difficult lesson for me to learn. It took me decades. I don't wish that upon any of you guys, my kids. Do better. Do better than me. Be more balanced. Have hobbies. Have a life outside of, even if it's just something to get away from work. I had the problem, if I had frustration or whatnot, which I don't tend to now. I'm pretty chill. But when I was younger, I certainly did. Yeah. Rough day or whatever, I'd go home and I'd sit down at the drum set and just get some rage and just play and all that. And after, it didn't take more than 5 minutes before I realized, and I tried something. I was like, well, how would I do? That's kind of cool. I just turned my rage session into a practice session. I did it again. God, I was so bad about that. But I intentionally unplug. And so when I come back, might be a little bit looser. I tends to be fine. And I hope for not, my first couple gigs back to not be the most intense thing, playing, xylophone for them. It's like a symphony with Dallas Winds. Like you're just running notes. Basically, notice perk ensemble, like the heavyweight thing where you're just cramming notes down. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a softball or two, but the timing, and this is going back to the hyper detailed, sort of as an ensemble player, which is really, that's my bread and butter. I can play the really complicated technical stuff. That's great. And, all the kids coming out of college now, they can do that. The thing that a seasoned musician, orchestral specifically, is that I think of it as an instinct to feel the ensemble and what they're doing, and like, that's a little, those strings are a little looser and okay, how do I put my notes? Like, how can I just place my note to help bring it all together? So I keep making this sound. It's but there's and it's something that it's not specific to a percussion, but it's something that we sometimes have the ability more than other instrument groups to place that single note to just bring everybody back together. help keep the ensemble together, to be the battery behind the orchestra. That can be that it happens. It's split second stuff. It's literally, I mean, it's a microsecond. They can put it a little bit on the backside of the beat or a little bit up front of the beat. You can, like, that can make a significant difference. In hindsight, I could probably explain in most instances what I did and how I did, but in the moment, you just have to react.
Yeah.
It has to be basically instinctual. And when you haven't done it for 2 months because you've been on the road, climbing a mountain or putting your feet in the sand on the Pacific or whatever, your microseconds might not be as refined as they were in April towards the end of a season when you've been like every other day you got a gig and it's like, okay, go do this, and it's just you're as sharp as you ever are. But as I get older, I think I come back to that faster. My instincts are better, where it's basically the proverbial ride a bike. You just know what to do. So I don't think I struggle with that as much, because it's really just it's balls and strikes. It's okay. Today I'm traveling from here to there. Cool, and I've been on the road for what? All right, and tomorrow I got to play this gig. All right, here are drums. Okay. Doing my thing. It's almost Buddhist, just live in the moment. So yeah, I just, whatever the wind blows my way, I try and catch it. That's it.